Well, I thought I'd put in my 2 cents about the full self-driving safety score. When it came out about 3 weeks ago, I thought, well, what the heck? I'll see what I can do. And I just took off and mostly drove kind of like I always do. Well, my score was about 90, which is a bit on the low side. Uh, a few things that it does. We all have gripes about this, and I'll issue a few of my own on this. But one of them was one of the first things I did. I drove about 40 miles, and I got a gig for someone turns in front of you, and it's going to warn you that you're going to crash. Well, we all know that most of the time we see this guy turns in front of you or pulls out in front of you, and you calculate, what it's going to take and whether you even need to brake at all. And I got gigged on that because I didn't touch the brake. I think if you touch the brake, it doesn't do it. That's what I've seen anyway. But I still got that silly gig on there. And I put at least 2,000 miles on a car, probably more than that. I went to California and back from Washington State, so it was a pretty long trip. Most of that was on autopilot, so it doesn't really count. But what I've noticed, and us guys my score is 98, so we'll say that. It's been 98 for, I don't know, a couple of weeks anyway. Guys like us sit there wondering how guys get 100 out of this thing, and I'm not sure how they do it still. But what I've seen, I tend to want to turn a little faster than they like. You can do the numbers, 0.3 gravities and all this kind of stuff, but that doesn't mean anything when you're driving. It's just a number. So I quieted down my turning, but I still every once in a while I get a gig on that, and I've noticed I can get a gig if I come to a parking spot and turn, fairly sharply to get in there, and if I'm driving down a parking lot or something and somebody starts to pull out and I'll hit the brakes. I'm only going like 2 or 3 miles an hour, and you'll still get a gig on it. So you get those. The following too close really needs to be changed. It's dumb. I'll show you an instance where that happened, and there's no way to avoid it, and especially if you're in a place that's got some freeways and a lot of traffic, there's no way you're going to avoid that.
I probably should. I haven't.
One thing I will say about it is they don't count it very much. When someone pulls on to the freeway, or you pull onto the freeway, and you take a spot that's there's not enough room between you and the car in front. There never is. And so you stretch it out, and it works fine, but it gigs you anyway. So I've had those. I've pretty much gotten away from the braking ones, except for the one that everybody complains about. You come up on a yellow light, and I'm not going to run a red light. I'm not going to do that. I'm not even going to push down a yellow light. I'm going to try to be safe. So and I got a couple instances of where that's happened, and where you've got to stop in about 4 seconds or something like that. You're gonna probably get a gig on it. It happens a lot, so there's not much you can do about that. And of course, if you're driving down the road and somebody pulls out in front of you, well, okay, you can either get the squawking signal and continue on, or you can hit the brakes and take the gig from the hard braking. It seems kind of odd that a vehicle that corners so well, you get gigged for cornering it. And maybe you shouldn't corner that fast. I probably corner a little bit faster than I should. But as a lot of other guys have said, yeah, well, look at all the accidents I've had. I actually don't remember being in an accident since I was in my 20s. I may be wrong on that, I forget stuff, but certainly bad accidents. No, I got one that was a fender bender, but it was a fairly big one back in my 20s. And since then, I don't know, I haven't hit any cars, so I must be doing something reasonably right. But anyway, the things that I would gripe about is the following too close. The only way you should do that is when a car is sensed in front of you, you got to give them like 10 or 15 seconds to build out that space between the cars. Because that's how you do it when you're on the road anyway. They should be linking the traffic light, because I mean the thing does show you the traffic light. It knows when it's yellow, and it should be blanking those out so that they're not part of this, because that is being safe. The pull out in front of you, which is a big gig, that was a really big gig. It's been on there for a long time, and it hasn't gone down in its percentage much since I started this. Remember, I've got maybe 2,500 miles in this car since this thing happened, and it's still up there, and it's still got a fairly high number. I think it's 0.3 or 0.03, I don't remember for sure. So that's a big gig. But should they modify it? Of course they should. Everybody says they should modify it. And it's kind of interesting. Is this the same thing they use for determining insurance costs? That would kind of be odd. Because I don't think it comports well to safety. I just don't think it does. Obviously, heavy braking is not a good idea. You're supposed to be looking ahead at what's going on, but some of the gig you get for braking have nothing to do with that. So anyway, that's just my 2 cents on that thing. That's it on this one.